try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, 'cause when we're gone, everything goes on. You were staring at the window, and I said, I wanna take you to the sea. And when I'm better, we'll do everything. I gotta stop making promises I can't keep. But if I was gone tomorrow, won't the waves crash on? Is it selfish that I'm happy as we pass the setting sun? Someday I'll be overcast, but you won't have to cry, 'cause we'll do the grieving while I'm by your side. I said, don't try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, 'cause when we're gone, everything goes on. And I'm so scared of getting used to this. All the vines that keep you tethered in your room. Well, someday both of us are leaving here, but for now I'll just bring this sea to you. Will you meet me in the daylight like we did before? Then I felt you on my shoulder, and you weren't suffering anymore. You said, I'm sorry that you worried, but don't apologize. I told you to forget me, but you stayed by my side when I said, don't try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, and when we're gone, everything goes on.
Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace, restore our Gloria to live forever. Bring down the dark regime and know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the SLE. And today it is a historic matchup, the El Clasico of the SLE. It is a Gidchi against Vitagen, and it's two of the teams or the organizations battling it out. I'm joined by Algren, and well, this is one of the most exciting games to watch as an SLE fan.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna lie, a bit down of energy, long working day, but I'm sure these two teams are gonna fire me up. Yin versus Pearl, Gucci versus Vitagen. Both organizations coming in with two teams now, so we have double the rivalries, I guess. And way more matches we can get this time, especially in the Swiss system. There's at
Yep.
least four we can get this time, so we got the first one already. Wait, actually, no. They also didn't. We have Yin versus Diamond already went.
Yeah,
Right?
they had Yin versus Diamond, but it's probably important to preface that the Vitagen Diamond roster is different to what the Vitagen squad have fielded last split. And of course, whilst that roster does have some returning faces, the rivalry really does sit between Gucci and the likes of Dutch and the likes of Ant. So I think this is why the Pearl matchup has been so anticipated, highly anticipated amongst the SLE community. And taking a look at both squads, I mean, we kind of had a conversation with Dutch on the Gucci podcast earlier this week. I think they've had a rough start, both of them. They haven't had the starts that they wanted. Of course, Gucci in, they got a little bit fortunate with Eternal Blizzard having scheduling and technical difficulties, whereas Vitagen had the opposite end of that when they had to drop the first game due to scheduling issues. But yeah, essentially both teams not really at the place that everyone was expecting.
No, I guess that is a fair point to say there. I think Vitagen is kind of unlucky that they had to drop 2 free games. So in a way, they're only, I guess, 3-1. But they did drop a game, and I'm actually quickly checking what that was. I think it was last week where they did drop one against Snackback. That was a bit of an unfortunate game. They looked a little bit out of sorts, but they turned around pretty nicely. So I think they are definitely coming in here. And yeah, you were talking about these two squads. I have some veterans on the team. The legendary players in the jungle. We talked about Dutch. There's definitely that rivalry with GL. He was talking about how JL had an incredible split last split, even though he came in late. But he said that it was kind of like, he had Wiggies on that team, and everybody knew how good Wiggies was in the support, or everybody loving Wiggies, understandably. So he's kind of going at it like, he doesn't have Wiggies anymore, so he wants JL to prove himself. But at the same time, to me, that just shows that Dutch also needs to prove himself again here against JL. He said he had some big words in this matchup, so I'm hyped for this jungle matchup.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Dutch is so well known for being a confident player. He's very outspoken. He does have his opinions of his opposite numbers, but JL, as much as he has had a tricky start to the split, you cannot count out the experience that this player has. But more importantly, I think one of the mainstay matchups of these two teams is actually in the top lane. You have Ant, who is an SLE champion. You have Ruzu, who's an SLE finalist, and these two have been competing at a competitive level for a very long time. But it's also two sides of the coin. Ant is well known for being a menace in the top lane, and whilst Ruzu it does have a reputation of his own, he didn't really meet his expectations last split.
Yeah, I think the Yang squad of last split, where Ruzu was a top laner, fell a little bit short in what they wanted to achieve, but he's back this split. I always kind of forget that he's an SLE veteran, because he's always such a quiet guy, and all the other veterans are so much louder in the chat. But yeah, Ruzu is that quiet top laner, that island guy who will just win his lane. And I hope that he, for the sake of Gucci, can do it again here against Ant, who is definitely a formidable opponent. So that is definitely going to be a banger. And we have gotten into draft, and some interesting things that I've seen immediately is that both, I think, interesting champions that have been banned are banned on the side of Gucci here. For me specifically, I'm looking at the Smolder and the Kaisa. I think Smolder B1, definitely something you have to ban on red side, but they've also banned what I will keep on saying is probably the answer to Smolder is just Kaisa full poke, but we saw what Trolulu, should we say Trolulu or Shades? Like he goes by both names. He had an amazing game against Snack back last week on this Kaisa, and it's been taken away from him. And now they're pivoting into a different kind of scaling option with a Senna.
Yeah, Senna does get locked in, and I think one kind of matchup with that we definitely need to touch on is LMR against Sanix. You have a player who is so actually both sides have host experienced AD carries, but one is extremely aggressive and the other one goes for that passive scaling. And I think LMR going to take that Senna and Tom Kench bot lane just to make sure that they can get through that laning phase, because we see what Sanix can do when he gets ahead in the lane phase, and I think Vitagen Pearl not going to take any chances.
Yeah, I've been looking at both these players. I think LMR has not had a good week last week. I think he was kind of living under the shadow of Trolulu, I'll say then. In that second game there, had a rough first game as well on Illusion. He's going with a more of a scaling option this time around. And against someone like Sanix, I do know that Sanix is, I think both his strongest suit is both like his trump card as well as potentially his downfall and how aggressive he can be, because it kind of I think we've also seen that he goes a little bit too aggressive and has potentially even cost Gucci a game there. I think on Lucian just going a bit too aggressive, but if this guy gets ahead and just can do these aggressive things and get away with it, he will just completely tear an opponent apart. So I think it's very important that this Senna is not going to get bullied too hard, because this champion has an incredibly low stats in the early game and can be absolutely obliterated in the early levels. But they're going up with a Kog'Maw Emilio here in bot lane, which I don't really I shall say I don't really link it with Sanix per se, but it could be an interesting adaptation and seeing some different facet here from Gucci.
Well, yeah, I mean, Kog'Maw just recently came through in the recent patch with a lot of buffs. A champion that has been out of the meta, I would say, for quite a while now, and he is back. Well, I don't know if he's back, but he is a lot stronger than he was before. And you say, obviously Sanix, it doesn't really quite fit his persona as an AD carry, but I do remember when he rebranded to the name of 3/4. I remember facing his Kog'Maw or seeing his Kog'Maw, and it was definitely complimented by many who witnessed that one. And one mainstay, another so many veterans in this game, but another veteran of the SLE, Kim Jensen, going to get his hands on that signature Orianna. Picked it in the finals to claim the championship last split, so he'll get that against Vitagen.
Yeah, it's Orianna pick. It's come up in the last split playoffs where it just became like a first picker ban, and it's come into the mid lane meta and it just hasn't really left anymore. I think people starting to realize that Orianna has always been one of the, in my opinion, one of the best mid laners to ever have on your team. It's so powerful with the shockwave. It's got defensive utility as well in giving your hyper carry potentially a fat shield. Same thing for your jungler if he wants to go aggressive. It can be punished a little bit in lane, but they're going to be answering it with the Zig, so it's kind of like poke into a control mage. I think that's kind of fine as long as you can maneuver the bombs being thrown your way. I don't think Orianna should get bullied too hard in this lane, and they can both farm it up. I guess what I'm a little bit questioning if the Ziggs can actually land a big Mega Inferno Bomb, because he doesn't really have any setup other than Tam King's knockup. Because Eternal Pillar is like a slow, but that's about it. Like, it's just gonna land. It's just gonna use a slow to set up an Inferno Bomb. I don't know. Usually, I expect the Ziggs to be comboed with something like a Jarvan or the Rel. Otherwise, in team fights, it's kind of hard to pop off on this champion. But I mean, who knows? He can do some magic there. And they've also locked in a blind Olaf, and it's answered by Ruzu on Garen, which I don't think I've ever seen him play this champion.
I don't think I have either, but in terms of the matchup, this is a tricky one for Olaf. And one thing, although we have never seen Ruzu play Garen, or at least I haven't, I definitely know he is a fan of the Olaf. He knows a lot about that champion, and if he's pivoting himself towards this Garen, you can almost imply that this is a pick he knows counters Olaf very, very strongly.
I mean, it definitely makes sense purely from looking at the kits. I don't know if people still know, but the lower health Olaf goes, the more attack speed he gets, which means like it typically was very known when he was doing jungle clears that he would be going almost to like 10% HP just so he could clear his camps faster, which meant people want to invade him because, you know, you just need one ability to kill him. And, you know, what Garen then does if Olaf wants to play on the hyper attack speed after level 6, yeah, Garen just executes you at 30 or 40% HP. So it thematically makes a lot of sense to go Garen against it. And he has to go with his... he has to pop the Ragnarok if he wants to keep on throwing axes, because Garen can also just silence him and deny the axe spam coming out from Olaf as well. So I think that's probably the idea why we're going Garen into Olaf, and I think that makes a lot of sense. But like when I look at the team comp specifically, I'm glad they have a Volibear, because that can actually start some sort of fight. It has a good leap in to get on top of the Ziggs or the Senna. It's an unstoppable jump that Orianna can combo with, because I don't think that this Garen will ever be allowed on a backline when you're facing a Trundle, a Ziggs, Satchel Charge, and a Tahm Kench can just eat up the carry even if you do get on top of him with a flash.
Yeah, it's a really tough one, and I mean JL on the Volibear, I think he has shown multiple times the split to be comfortable to pick that champion, but I think he's had varying performances, and you know, for those who doesn't know, he is currently also playing in a separate league, and he's picked it in that league, and it seems like it's working better on that team than it is on this team, and you know that you can go around in circles and figure out why, but yeah, inconsistency has been the crux of this Guccian team, and it's like, you know, we're talking about the difficulty of operating this Volibear into their draft, and whilst...
Well, yeah, I actually specifically meant the Garen, because the Volibear has the unstoppable leap, but the Garen literally has to walk at them.
Yeah, of course. But, I mean, I think the function of this Garen isn't to do anything with the draft as a whole. It is essentially to neutralize the Olaf. You've picked this Garen into the Olaf. You haven't picked it for any other reason other than you're trying to win that lane. And I think it's a decent strategy. When you take a look at this Vitagen Pearl team, how crucial is it that Ant wins his lanes? I think that, you know, as we touched on their bot lane, it has been a question mark. It's been a question mark since day one when this roster came out. Of course, LMR and Kalaski, veterans of the SLE, but you know, they're not the hard-hitting bot lane that they had before of Jomi and a Jesse, where this time around it's kind of like, yeah, it's an unproven quantity, I guess you could say. And so, you know, it's almost like more pressure on the top side. And whilst I believe the top side of Vitagen Pearl can handle it, it's still a lot on them to win their lanes. So the Garen being an answer into the Olaf just puts even more pressure onto Ant. But I really do think Ant is one of the best top laners we have in the SLE that plays against bad matchups.
I like that we talk about the Olaf versus Garen, but there is actually still that possibility that Trundle goes top lane. We've seen a lot of Trundle top lane. I don't know if that matchup makes more sense into Garen, and Olaf can go jungle. But as our producer hears me talk, he shows me that the Olaf will be at least in Ant's hands. And I'm not expecting Dutch to roll swap just for this game. He probably has something to prove here against JL. But yeah, talking about Olaf versus Garen, important to win this lane. I don't think he has to win the lane to Olaf. I think if the Garen plays it correctly and it actually is just a hard counter, then if he can just hold on, it's probably fine, because there's almost no way to stop Olaf running right for your Kog'Maw or your Orianna. The only thing that stands in his way is literally distance that he has to go through, because he has to run at them, and he has to run, like, as soon as Melios kicks the ball, he has to turn on the Ragnarok, and he needs to get to a target to start auto-attacking to keep that Ragnarok up, because if it drops down, and he's not on Kog'Maw will just absolutely shred him. So I think there's a lot of coordination needed with the Trundle pillar, slowing down Kog'Maw so he can't run from the Olaf, in order for this Olaf to actually properly team fight. And if he falls behind against a Garen, if he only has, I think what Olaf builds, I'm not a top lane expert, but I think it's like in the direction of Ravenous into tanky armor items. If he only has a Ravenous, he will die before he even gets close. And then he can't do anything in these team fights. And I don't see how Pearl can win a team fight when they have Senna supporting the frontline auto-attacking champions that are Trundle and Olaf, when they just get absolutely obliterated. There's only so much healing that comes from a Senna.
Yeah, and I mean, Okay, so based off the two drafts, right? I think in the SLE, it's really important to take into account the ease of execution. Is there one draft here that you think is a lot easier to pull off than the other?
So I think the main part's like, let's just say top lane's 50-50, because I don't know how this is going to end up there. I think even then that Yin is so much easier to draft, because I think they, even though they are against the Ziggs, they don't really get poked at that hard. I never found Ziggs to be the strongest poke champion, because those bombs are kind of easy to sidestep when you're keeping your distance and you're not playing for farm in the mid lane, for example. When you're, I mean, in a scenario where you're standing on a Baron or a Dragon objective, right? And you have the Ziggs that has to land his poke. The coordination needs to come out from these melee champions running at a Kog'Maw that is getting buffed up by Milio, getting shields, getting movement speed, getting peeling from the Orianna, getting movement speed potentially from Orianna, and the Volibear just standing in between and holding back the other members as long as possible for Kog'Maw just walk backwards at the same time they're walking forwards. And I think this is a great draft for Kog'Maw to start shredding people, and I don't think Senna Time Kench is a lane that can bully Kog'Maw Milio. So I think that they can just freely scale, and when it comes to the team fights, I think it's going to be way easier for Yin to execute, because I think it's going to come down to the Ziggs landing those skill shots, and as good as I think Trululu is as a player, that just makes it already harder to execute than it is for Yin. So from that facet alone, I do favor Yin's draft for sure.
Yeah, I think it's Yin. Usually Orianna is a champion you pick, and it just makes everything so easy. You have that shockwave, and it can turn the tide of any game. I'd say Orianna is like the mid lane version of what's a classic jungler? It is the mid lane version of Jarvan. It's always good. It's always going to be effective.
Yeah.
And if you can pull off a big team fight ultimate, it doesn't. You can really turn a game around if you're behind, or even if you're ahead. It just ends the game completely. So. I think having that factor is going to be important. What I will say is, I think Trululu is a fantastic player. I think coming into the split, I know he was talked about, and he is a personality. He talks a lot. I think this, and if I'm not mistaken, I remember but if I'm not mistaken, he got picked up quite late into the off season by Vitagen Pearl, and I think he got through a lot of tryouts, but a lot of players didn't really want to try and work with someone as outspoken as that. But Vitagen Pearl, they've taken him into their home, and he's really shown how powerful of a player he can be. And that performance last week on the Kai'Sa, that's one of the examples that you give this guy the environment to shine, and he will absolutely do that. Of course, that being said, that first game didn't go so well for everyone across the board. I think he actually struggled quite a lot on the Karma pick. So I think one thing for him is, like, if he can get the ball rolling in this game one, it's going to be a big performance from him. But we have already seen that if he can't find his footing in the laning phase, he can struggle. He got solo killed, I think, as a Karma into an Orianna, which, I mean, we all know Karma, right? We all know right now, getting killed as a Karma is very difficult to do. So
right?
it's not really a thing. I don't really like. Karma's one of those champions. When it dies, you're just like, wait, it died. It's like
you have a shield and a self heal. No other mid laner has that.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've seen two sides of the coin from this mid laner, and I think what's really going to be important for Vitagen Pearl, especially here in this draft, where he is essentially the solo AP poke mage. His performance is going to be vital for the outcome of this game.
Yeah, exactly. He has to get the ball rolling, as you said, or in this case, the bomb rolling. It's going to be a tough one, I do think, because I don't think that he doesn't have the best of setup. Of course, when it does come to team fights and choke points, those bombs are inevitable. So if he does get to those item spikes, it will take off a lot of HP from the Kog'Maw. And then, yeah, if an Olaf can get a flank, he can just get absolutely obliterated as well from quite creative angles then, I guess. So if Pearl can get the control over the map, get the vision down to set up before these objectives, to find those flanks and get the vision on the Kog'Maw, chunk him hard immediately when the fight starts, then they have a really good chance. Because I've also seen what late game Trundle has done in games, and it's absolutely disgusting with just one mouse button. So it's definitely not like over from draft for sure.
No.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely looking at the Ziggs here. It's not a typical pick to see a lot, and I think he had a really good game on the Kai'Sa, but I think that build is also a little bit disgusting. So maybe abusing a bit of a champion meta. But this, if he pops off on this champion, then it's really a good sign that this guy is probably one of the top tier mid laners. Because I haven't seen anyone pop off on the Ziggs yet.
Yeah, there's a chance for him to really make a statement here. But speaking of statements, we've thrown out a lot of praise for these players, but one matchup we haven't really touched on is two players that have had, both of them, I would say, mixed performances. The support players of both teams, they, with the new rank restrictions, unfortunately, someone does have to bite the bullet of being the low rank player on their team. And I think for both squads, their supports are those players. I think Kolaski currently at Emerald 4 and Riggs at Emerald 3. So these two, it's a really big chance for them to step up. And of course, Riggs is a veteran to the Riggs is a rookie to the SLE, whereas Kolaski is a veteran to the SLE. And you have two sides of the coin, but both have had similar performances to the start of the split, where it's up and down. You're not really sure. It's very out of sync with the rest of the team. Just there's questions over skill or individual ability, and I think this is going to be this is both of their first big game. So I think, culturally big game. So I think it's going to be a really big opportunity for both these players to really step up and show what they've got.
Yes, for sure. I think a lot in this lane has to be decided by the supports here. Both AD carries kind of want to farm, but if you as a support can get a little bit of an extra advantage in here for your ADCs, it might translate into pressure and getting early drakes. And I think with a game that's going to be I think that one where both teams probably anticipate going a little bit longer into it, early drake stacking is actually huge, and it's going to come down to Melio kicking this Tahm Kench every time he wants to use the abyssal dive and denying the Kog'Maw ever getting on top of. So he's got a very important job here, and we've gotten into the game, and Ant was already looking into some early game Olaf shenanigans where he just invades the jungle, but he will not quite commit to it, even though he did saw the bear there on the chickens. And both junglers starting topside, probably running the bot lane to help out their scaling ADCs. Probably makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of looking at both team compositions here. I don't really expect much to be happening within the first 15 minutes of the game. I would say...
They're actually heavy trading. What are you talking about?
This is quite normal for Ziggs Orianna. It's maybe not to this extent, but it's Ziggs is a poke champion. Orianna's not necessarily a long-range mage, so it's normal. But yeah, I don't expect too many skirmishes to break out. I think it's just general laning at the start of the game, and then I think once the scaling aspects come in, this is where these two teams will scrap as much as they can.
Shale actually hovering around top lane, actually for an early top lane gank, just outside of vision. Yeah, Olaf really close to the tower. I don't know if this is worth it. He has Ghost, he has Flash. He's gonna check into the top side, find that it's empty, which means he can start warning his bot lane that he's not going to be home anytime soon, and that they need to be scared of this Trundle, the troll, running down at this bot lane. They have put a ward in Tribush, and they're definitely going for the dive here, because he's definitely committed to this one.
Yeah, they might be going for the dive. Ant does not have teleport, so if he is to fall here, there are massive repercussions. He's going to lose a big wave. The first blood is going to go into the hands of JL. That's information given that he is not on his bot side, but the first blood goes into the hands of Ruzu. And take a look at the CS numbers. Ant loses so much off the back end of this play.
He also doesn't have teleport, doesn't blow any summoner to try and get a kill even as well. He's gonna go down 3-4 waves immediately, but a great setup here as we can see in the replay. I think you see Ruzu also just wait until the stun comes down from the Volley Bear before he hits him with the silence, and afterwards there's nowhere to run anymore. He can't even flash. He has to kind of go early, but then the tower aggro doesn't even start, so this was a really good job here, a really clean dive. Really well orchestrated, and it will be it will actually not be punished. His Dutch was maybe thinking about invading that blue side quadrant, but he will not quite commit to it. But yeah, there's a little bit of a CS deficit then as a result in the jungle, But I think this is definitely worth it. If this Garen gets ahead, I think thematically this champion, we talked about it, makes a lot of sense into Olaf. And if Olaf can't play, then being in a permanent 45 is going to be really rough for Pearl.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation, especially because a champion like Olaf, he really does not want to fall this far behind in the laning phase. And right now, Garen already ahead. You can see this wave pushing in, whilst Ant is already at a 8 CS deficit. So Aruza's lead is going to build massively, and that's the trade-off here. You blow a tiny CS deficit, which JL will eventually catch up to, for a massive lead in the top lane. The only thing I will say is that, okay, this is just my personal experience. Garen, the reason we don't see it too often in competitive is because it doesn't really do anything in competitive. Team fight wise, it's not, you know, it's no Malphite, it's no Aatrox, you know, it's no Ornn. So I think that's the one sort of factor that Vitagen and Pearl do have to take into account, is that this Garen doesn't provide, like, as fed as he may get, he doesn't really provide that much in team fights. And especially, you know, you think about the way Garen operates, the way he likes to assassinate people out of bushes against the Tahm Kench. It is really difficult for Ruzu. So I mean, that is at least something Vitagen and Pearl can try to hold on to. So I mean, we'll have to see how the rest of the game plays out, obviously.
For sure. I do think that the Garen might be quite useful here when there's so many melee champions trying to run past a Garen.
That is quite true,
He
yeah.
can silence, and if the Kog'Maw starts raining down on any of them, Kog'Maw doesn't need to finish him. We have the big-ass execute from this Garen, so definitely tools for the Garen to play the team fights. But yeah, traditionally not the best team fighter, but if he gets a massive lead and his Olaf can't do Olaf things in team fights, it's going to be quite rough. And in the meantime, we've seen that KJ has kind of stabilized the mid lane poke, I should say. Only down a few CS here, definitely worth it if you're... It looked really rough actually for those first levels, but that's the Ziggs passive playing into the trading pattern. And meanwhile, the Volibear has actually managed to equalize CS here. He's picked up his blue buff. It wasn't invaded at all, but he will be spotted while trying to path down the bot lane to make something happen. There's quite some wards around this bot lane to protect it, and something I haven't really touched upon, it's actually going to be fasting Senna. I saw they were going to nerf the Senna spawn rate when she's farming, so it's going to make sense that Senna has to become a farming Senna, a fasting Senna again, but they're already doing it, even though I think it's still pretty good to play ADC Senna. But yeah, it's going to come down even more to Kolaski to prove himself as a support here, actually as a farming support. And so far he's doing a good job. He's completely even with the Kog'Maw, who does have to pick up a few more CS, but other than that, kind of honestly kind of a boring bot lane, not gonna lie.
Yeah, this is definitely a farm fest in the bot lane, but I think one thing I definitely need to point out here is that, you know, JL traded his own situation to benefit Ruzu in the top lane, and we take a look at the CS numbers because JL's now ahead of Dutch. I've kind of taken a look at the minimap. Yeah, he's taken Drake. He's now getting grubs. He's gotten every single neutral, first blood, ahead on camps. And when you take into consideration, he's sacrificed his tempo for that early top dive. Dutch, I kind of noticed the last few minutes he has sort of just ran around the bot side of the map looking for something without really finding anything. So yeah, it's not a great look for the Trundle here considering that early play.
Yeah, he definitely has to. I'm expecting more from Dutch after our interview with him and his words for GL. So like, come on, man, make something happen. Use that pillar in any kind of fashion, because I think it's kind of criminal that you haven't taken his blue side quadrant or have not gotten a gank down on this Kog'Maw, while your top laner got Dove. I don't think Antu's very happy with that situation, that you're also getting a Drake, you know? That's one of those situations where you're like, come on, man!
Yeah, Ant is definitely not in the best of spots. 20 CS down, 8 minutes into the game. But potentially looking for a possible invade. Won't cross paths with JL, I don't think, because he did not step out the bush.
No, I mean, JL saw him, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. JL
oh, yeah, question mark ping was there, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, not only does Dutch not know where JL is, JL knows where he is, so that's going to give even more information. The saving grace here is every time the camera does pan over to the mid lane, Trululu is landing spells, he is poking out Kim Jensen. Obviously, Orianna on a low HP, not the worst situation, a very safe mid laner, even in the face of long-range poke. So, he should be okay, but it's definitely a possible, I guess, like sign of things to come. If Trelulu is able to land a lot of spells, a lot of deep burst damage, a lot of artillery in these team fights, can really, really make the difference.
For sure. Right now, not a lot of pressure coming out from Trelulu that much. He's see a little bit of top lane fighting here. He's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
gonna commit to it. Goes popped.
Yeah. Oh, and Ruzu gonna dodge away from the axe, meaning Ant's Ragnarok gets popped for nothing alongside the ghost here. And it, Ruzu, yes, you did get that help, but he looks like he's kind of toying with his food and pressing the S button in front of his turret. So definitely a dominant performance so far from the good Yin top laner, and Dutch now starting to chase onto the Sanix, and a great knockout from Kalaski is going to start the fight successfully for Vitagen Pearl. LMR is going to try and land a few more auto attacks, forcing the flash out the bot lane of good Yin. So finally, Dutch makes a play happen on the map, and it gets 2 flashes out of it.
Yeah, the numbers advantage was here for Pearl. Also, just Six has that easy access to team fights with his Mega Inferno Bomb, right?
Yeah.
So they're just gonna force them to blow their summoners. It was a bit weird. I guess they were kind of trying to fight over control over that Tri-Bush, but they didn't expect the troll to be hiding in there. So, gonna lose flashes on both the bot lane members of Gucci, but there is still an exhaust, there is still a ghost. But yeah,
Yep.
Ghost against Pillar significantly reduced in effectiveness, but JL's actually looking for something here.
Yeah, JL, he is going to find a catch onto LMR. He's going to flash into the wall. So the Senna just loses the flash, doesn't fall because the volley player was alone. Kim Jensen teleporting in. That could have been a scary situation. He will survive for now, but I do think this does mean another neutral objective secured for JL.
I think it will be. The Senna had the base right now. Bot lane is shoving the wave right now. I think Kim Jensen has the ward down. He can see True, he can see Dutch. He still has flash. This pillar is not
That
too
is
big of
a
deal, but
good pillar, but yeah, Kim Jensen will just walk away. Does he also have phase rush available? And you can see Kim Jensen placing that ball on that choke point, making sure the entry into this contest is as difficult as possible, and it will be enough to deter the side of Vitagen Pearl. 2 dragons in the pocket for JL, and it just seems like, just off the back of some really good early game pathing, JL is controlling the tempo of this game.
yeah, really good stuff there. Actually making sure the Senna is basing right before an objective. Getting bot lane prio out will mean that they can't really contest. They can't afford it, but doing it without the Senna here, they need the backup. And Dutch will just grab his consolation prize in the last 3 grubs, but there were 3 already picked up by JL, so no grub spawns on tower hits today. We do see top lane. I think that Ant has done a pretty good job actually stabilizing, given the fact that he got first blood against him and down like 3 waves, being down a level. Just only down like 20 CS and just being able to actually...
Wait a minute, Dutch might not be able to secure this for absolutely free, but here comes the collapse from the solo laners of Gucci. Dutch is going to flash just out in time. Kim Jensen being brought to low HP. We talked about Trelulu's ability to land these spells in these clutch team fights. That's going to get 1. It's a 1-for-1 for now. Trelulu going to find a catch onto Kim Jensen. The shield is going to buy some time, but the Ziggs, 1 last bomb's going to do a double kill for the mid laner of Vitagen Pearl, and in the contest, it will be a 2-for-1 in favor of Vitagen. Oh, and actually, I'm gonna have to keep going because the bot lane 2v2 is breaking out here, and ultimates traded. Well, Riggs and LMR having to both use their ultimates defensively, and nothing will come out of it. But yes, yeah. Oh, actually, top lane fight as the minimap is showing that JL and Trelulu are potentially fighting, but
yes, actual charge. That just ends.
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there. We don't see it, but that's probably
yeah. That's probably what happened. But yes, Algan, a big fight in the top lane.
Yeah, I thought Grubbers would be faster done, but yeah, they take forever, so they will start the fight. And Garen is actually still quite squishy, and Olaf just turns it on to Kim Jensen, just kind of gets freely access to him. There's not really they couldn't really stop him anyways. And when the bombs come down from Trelulu, they get poked down fast enough. It will be replied here by JL flashing the wall when the Ragnarok ends to at least trade the kill on Ant, but 2 kills going over to the 6 is definitely what they need to have this artillery mage start getting some priority when they go and contest for these objectives.
It was a massive play if you take into consideration some of the factors in the early game. I think one thing we need to point out is that last grub did go into the hands of Gucci Yin, but I think For grubs,
Grubs
it's
don't
not.
matter.
Yeah, I think it matters when it's 5 or 6, but when it's 4 and 2, it is not really that much of a
If
difference.
6, I'm willing to say it might matter. On 5,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
care. It's
yeah.
one grub
Well,
that, nah, fuck that.
well, listen, the grub conversation is one for another time because I've seen way too many circle jerks of grubs are better than dragon. So yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole for now. But I think one thing I need to commend is that flash away from Dutch. He held it just until the last minute. And Damarcian Justice came just a little bit too early. Wasn't able to
Still a level
execute the
10
trundle.
Olaf as well, so
Yeah,
just lacking
exactly,
a little
so-
bit of that execute there. So yeah, just barely saving Dutch's life. But yeah, without flash, the next team fight would be a lot harder. But I guess the next dragon will be up before his flash is up, so it will be harder for Dutch and Ant to navigate those team fights. And Kog'Maw is hitting his first item spike. It's actually a really good one. Proccing the on-hit effects double means that his percent max health also procs double. This is what makes Kog'Maw such a good tank shredder. He doesn't need Borg for it like other ADCs do, so if he starts joining these team fights, he's gonna be really scary. And I think now we can start looking at Sanix in these team fights and actually the bot lane contributing, because so far not a lot has happened there.
Yeah, not too much, as I think they are just kind of scaling up, and I mean, for both sides, they do have strong scaling, but, you know, as you touched on in the draft, Kog'Maw up against a lot of these champions, once that power spike comes in, we'll just shred through them completely, so I think if you're the side of Good Shein, buying time for that Kog'Maw is much better, as there could be a play happening in the mid lane. Now Dutch gonna drop the pillar. Shockwave is available, holding it for now, and Dutch is gonna get pulled in by that ability. There goes JL going on to a killing spree. 3 kills now, 100% kill participation. The jungler of Good Shein really showing up here, up against his rival Dutch.
Beautiful shockwave there to pull back the flashless trundle. Oh, Sanix actually getting snared under tower.
Yeah, getting snared. Yeah, Kalaski forcing the flash out of the Kog'Maw. He will feel confident to step up with the Milio, doing some more damage. And yeah, despite losing the flash, you do get the health bars of the enemy bot lane, opening up that third dragon. And Algren, 16 minutes into the game, soul point already.
Yeah, really good stuff in terms of objective control from Gucci here. They haven't really lost anything. I don't count those 2 grubs as there's no meaningful power spike on those grubs when they don't have 5 or 6 at all. So yeah, everything in terms of objectives going the way of Gucci. They're scaling fine. They've got first 3 Drakes. It looks really good here for the side of Gucci, and it's gonna come down to Pearl starting the fight back and make something happen proactively, because next Drake is potentially a soul, and a soul that makes it very hard to kill a Volibear and a Kog'Maw, and that's gonna be pretty tough.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
I want them to dive. Like, I was expecting them to dive, and they're not doing it. I'm a little bit disappointed, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think the main purpose of JL backing off there is he did not have the ultimate available. So understandable, you don't want to take any risk.
Yeah, it's a time cage, but still, I want action. I'm not gonna lie. Let's do something.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we touched on. Oh my god, the top lane turret's almost down in top lane, and yeah, well, at the end of the day, you want to don't take any risks with a champion like Kog'Maw. But you know, we touched kind of on the veterans that's fielded in this particular game. Dutch and JL, such a historic matchup, and I really do feel JL really is controlling the tempo of this game. Sorry, I'm hooking up some conversation time here. As JL gonna keep chasing Tralulu. He will encounter Dutch as he's gonna have to use the ultimate defensively. So the first hiccup of the game from JL there, overstepping into the hands of Vitagen Pearl.
Small win there, yeah, but I think, kind of disrespecting where the tournament might be. Actually, Ruzu might want to take this fight. He's in a bit of an awkward spot. JL doesn't have ult.
Yeah, an awkward spot indeed. Garen with Phase Rush, he would be able to run away, but, you know, in the end, Ruzu is going to have to use his flash, and he's getting chased down by 2 people, and he's going to meet JL as JL flanks the top laner of Vitagen Pearl. One more job is going to do it. Ruzu gets the kill credit with the ignite. He's going to stun up the Trundle, and this is disaster for the top side of Vitagen Pearl. Double kill coming in for the Garen, and it looks like Good Shein are in control of this game. This Rift Herald belongs to them.
They're not quite going for the Rift Herald. Six is trying to burst this tower. He will be able to execute it.
What
yeah.
the hell?
Yeah. Kim Jens. Wait, you forgot about that?
You don't forget about it, but you just see it and you're like, what the?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hate it in Howling Abyss. When you die, you actually just lose instantly 2 towers and you just
Yeah.
lose the game.
I mean,
But,
it's the equivalent. It's the equivalent of when like you mistime your flash to Garen ult, and then it's like max range, and then you're like, what? You know, it's like
you
you
still
know,
die, yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Goddamn Garen. And I'm pretty sure that Pearl is saying the same thing, because it looks like they got themselves a catch, but with this phase rush, he can create so much distance, and they have to really force trying to get this Garen. And after the flash, they should have just backed off. This Garen champion has damage and is tanky. He's just built that way. And then you overstep into the tower, and JL, without his ultimate, will be able to execute the Olaf. And then, yeah, you have flash on the Trundle, but yeah, you got silenced. It's what we talked about already. And then you flash late and get executed, just as you said, max range ultimate. It's a ranged ability, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Judgment for Ruzu.
Yeah, it's a rough spot, especially when you take into consideration, you know, yeah, Olaf into the Garen, already a tough matchup, and it's going to get even harder here, but let's see if Dutch can make something happen in the mid lane. Kim Jensen does have the flash, does have the shockwave, the Senna ultimate is also going to come down, and that will just be the Seraph's shield popped on the side of the Orianna, and you can see JL Ruzu arriving to the scene to try and defend their mid laner, but yeah, I think Vitagen Pearl saving grace is going to be the Ziggs here, because that damage was pretty crazy.
Yeah, if he can land those bombs, he will absolutely hurt. And the Mega Inferno bomb is going to be a hard one to sidestep for Orianna. She can only rely on her W, but this Kog'Maw is kind of just running him down. Absurd range. Just kind of will just be trading in the end. The Satchel Charge will make sure that this Ziggs is hard to lock down. Got really good CS score there for Tululu, almost at 10 CS per minute. But yeah, they picked themselves up at least the flash on the Orianna, which puts him very vulnerable. And LMR, I don't think you want to auto-attack trade with a farming Kog'Maw as a fasting Senna, so please respect him.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually want to ask you, because you know we've had a few conversations around AD carry itemization this season. Is there a particular or unique way that Sanix can build here just to allow him to just frontline as a Kog'Maw?
Frontline as I don't think you should do it as a Kog'Maw when you're playing with Emilio. He needs to absolutely shred these guys. So as much percent max health damage and armor shred as he can get in there. Definitely has to not pick up Terminus. Even though it looks good on Kog'Maw, you need the passive from LDR as he's just walking forward. And doesn't need LDR for LMR, so he's just gotta back off. He's already chunked. And are they just gonna give up Soul?
Yeah, apparently Vitagen Pearl do not value the soul very much. The Mega Inferno bomb is late. The Tongue Lash doesn't quite get this cheeky steal. 22 minutes into the game, Gucci Yin secure themselves the Kemp Tech Dragon Soul.
Yeah, I guess the comments are like, I mean, if we can test this, we just lose the game. So they must feel a bit pressured, kind of like grasping at straws, I guess, right now, what they can do against Gucci's comp, and I guess this might be one of the moves.
This might be one of the moves, and Sanix forced to flash away, but fortunately Dutch not having his will not be able to pursue that chase even further. They do get the Kog'Maw flash, which is a tiny victory. They might be possibly looking for a repeat play on that one very soon.
Yeah, I think they absolutely should. Orianna's also still flashless, so there are opportunities. But yeah, I think Sanix has been playing really well so far, farming up really nicely, almost at 10 CS per minute as well. He's doing really good, and then he just makes one small decision of not walking behind the wall and you just instantly lose your flash. That's the ADC experience, because they're always there ready to get you whenever you make a small mistake. And he will be a little bit more vulnerable for that as a result. But yeah, you talked about his itemization. I just don't want him to pick up Terminus, because at some point you have too much attack speed. And Terminus has armor shreds, but I think there's more armor shred in LDR. And if you are up against champions like Tahm Kench, Trundle, and Olaf, who all build items with adding health, you get even more damage out there as well. I think you absolutely want to get that item in, and Trundle will be jumping away in time, because that shockwave could have caught him out if he was able.
Driver check.
Drifting. We'll hit it.
Yeah. Yeah, with a great drift as the Rift Herald crashes. And yeah, you know, you said you don't want him to build Terminus. Well, Algren, if you take a look at his inventory,
I'd be with Sent.
no,
Actually, no, it's gonna
that's a Terminus. 100. Wow,
Garen?
Ruby gonna take the blast cone, and well, I did hear a ghost getting popped, and that was coming out from the center. So a simple blast cone is gonna blow that summoner spell from LMR. And well, I don't know if Ruzu did that on purpose, because if he did, that was pretty genius.
I mean, yeah, like this is you don't have a dash, so you just use your environment, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and I could get it. Like this Senna just shat her pants. It's like, damn, this is Garen leaping on top of me. What the hell?
Jesus Christ, there's a Garen! Yeah, no, I like that. I hope Ruzu releases like a documentary about how to utilize your surroundings to gain a competitive advantage. That would be a documentary I would love to watch, as he uses one simple blast cone.
Planet Rift documentary.
Yeah, Planet Rift documentary. We'll get
Blast cone.
we'll get JL to narrate in his beautiful Italian accent.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, so far the game is definitely looking one-sided, but still quiet. There hasn't yet been a big team fight to blow out, but you know, for Vitagen Pearl, one, I guess, positive of this quick Dragon Soul take is the next Dragon is an Elder. If you get that with a Ziggs, a Senna, it's going to be very, very lethal.
They have to go for this one. Like, you can't give up Elder, because then you just have to give everything on the map for 2.5 minutes. I think it's 2.5. I think it's a little shorter than Baron.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, it is one of those angles where if you feel like you can't contest Drakes, you can just always say like, guys, it's fine, we just flip Elder. You know, and if you get it, you might just win the game. So Kim Jensen, unaware of this troll. Oh no, he is aware. He's aware. And
He is aware, but so are members of Good Chi Yin. Trolulu gonna get stunned up. The Sombrero ultimate does come through, but they did get the flash up from the Ziggs. Here's Sanik's go button. Go ahead and spit on your enemies, because, well, they will just back off. But they did not find. Yeah, he spit once. They didn't find anything but the flash out of the Ziggs, which is very, very big. He is the only member with a shutdown on the side of Vitagen Pearl, which, by the way, I still find that's ridiculous. Like, look at the gold lead. Why is there a shutdown? Like, what?
Objectives.
What?
I mean, 4K is starting to get quite relevant, and I think Pearl will agree, because right now they're just getting bullied over the map.
Oh, Alamar died.
Ruzu found a kill, a wild Senna on his map, and freed Baron. I don't know.
It does seem like a free Baron, and Vitagen Pearl, they're just not contesting anything. They're giving things up. LMR found himself dead. A solo kill to the Garen in the middle of the lane. Vitagen Pearl, nothing is going their way at the moment, and I think for Trolulu, you're kind of sitting there hoping for that big team fight to break out, but if you don't contest anything, there will not be a big team fight.
Yep. And I'm a little bit disappointed with that. But it's looking really good for Gigshi. They have got complete control over this rift, and as you can see, like I don't know how Garen got Senna so close to a tier 2 mid lane tower. I feel like there should always be vision around that mid lane. It's kind of not allowed, but he did use his flash at least for that, so I'm assuming that's one of the classic Garen play, you know, flash QR, GG. And you know, emote on your enemy while you're walking away, and then you pick up a free Baron. Must feel good. The Garen pick 1 and 2 showing up pretty nicely here.
Yeah, definitely. R5 Garen, it's one of those bronze solo queue strategies, or SLE strategies, of course. I'm joking. It does seem to be working out very well for him, as you know, Anton the Olaf hasn't been able to find any sort of advantage. Dutch now getting chased down by JL. Shockwave pulls in too. That's already going to pick up the first kill of the fight, and this could be the fight for Vitagen Pearl. Shut down into the hands of Van. Kalaski is going to eat him up. JL surviving. There goes the Demacia as Ruzu goes on to a rampage. Spin to win for the top laner of Good Chi Yin, and they're going to get their hands opening up the map for this Elder Dragon, and with Dutch taken down, I don't think this is going to be contested.
They did lose the 80 carry, so this is significantly slower, because Kog'Maw would have been absolutely massive for this objective, but it will go down way too fast before this tunnel is respawning, so it's going to be an Elder. If they wait for a few more seconds, they can even get it on Kog'Maw?
Yeah.
Never mind. No Baron for Kog.
Nope. Yeah.
Sorry, Elder for
Yeah,
the dog. But
screw you,
yeah.
Sanix is basically what they said there.
I mean, honestly, it started really well, and the chase here, I think it's a good play. But Sanix went way too deep, man. Those blast cone strats, leave them for the Garen gameplay. You know, he went way too far and gets actually executed here by the Olaf, and it's just Garen
Oh my
will
god.
deny any further attempt of Olaf to start carrying this team fight, and he just starts spinning, and yeah, Pearl is just in awe of the spin and just runs away because they know they cannot come any closer to that Beyblade action.
Yeah, he went absolutely crazy in that team fight. But, you know, Vitagen Pearl, they found such a good choke point. That Dawning Shadow from LMR caught everyone from both sides, shielding up Vitagen Pearl members and damaging the side of Gucci. And so I think if they can find a similar team fight, maybe without Ruzu spinning through their entire team, then they could potentially win a fight. As Ruzu now getting caught by 3 members, gonna just drop that stride breaker and cruise to safety. As I don't think this Garen's gonna die.
He doesn't have flash though. They could. I think they could kill him there, but if they chase him, they will definitely lose at least 1 inhibitor. And they're not going to want to do that. And JL is posturing around this mid lane tower to try and create some kind of space so that they can walk up and hit it. But without the Baron buff, their wave is dying quite fast. And even though they have Elder Dragon, they find it pretty hard to kind of use it right now as, yeah, Pearl is just absolutely turtling in their base.
They are indeed, and well, with Elder Dragon in their hands, you can see Vitagen Pearl being so hesitant to start any sort of fight here. They have synced up the wave, so as Vitagen Pearl put their attention to the bot turret, they will just push through this mid lane turret. Mega Inferno Bomb tried to use to deter the push of Gucci Yin. Sanix actually going to get caught up by the center route, but with the ultimate coming up from Riggs, it will keep his AD carry alive. Karlovsky, I don't know if that's the play, buddy, as he jumps in all by himself in behind enemy lines. He will get taken down by Kim Jensen, and this inhibitor is going to get opened up. Nothing to defend here from the side of Vitagen Pearl. There's a wave in bot lane, so they put their attentions to that. Sanix now, with the help of Riggs, going to feel confident to step up. Ruzu doesn't give a goddamn about his opponents hitting him, as Sanix now potentially in danger. Doesn't have flash, doesn't have ghost, and he's got all members of Vitagen Pearl chasing him, but will just be able to cruise himself out of their base. That's 1 inhibitor turret, 1 inhibitor taken down from Gucci Yin, and it just looks like it is all going their way as Dutch might potentially face check this rush, and the jungler of Vitagen Pearl is gonna get taken down. Rampage for JL. Vitagen Pearl, this looks so dominant from Gucci Yin.
Yeah, and this is why Reef doesn't exist anymore, I suppose. It's a bit rough here. Face checking a 4-man recalling Bush is going to be another death here. In the end, 2 deaths, but only 1 in the actual team fight. And this is what I was trying to talk about. I think there's ways to play these team fights if you can get the Olaf running in, but you kind of need to make sure they can't just cleanly run away. And you see that the coordination in the engage isn't quite there. And while it looks like Ant wants to start the team fight and commit, Kolaski is trying to get the knockup down, but yeah, Ant already turns around and you just jump forward on your own, and you're staring down not just the Kog'Maw but 3 other members, and the Kog'Maw alone will probably just instantly kill you anyway. So, and they just get 2 towers as a result. Mid lane inhibitor and probably a Baron, but they're gonna have to contest at least something here.
Yeah, every single objective Gucci Yin has looked at just comes uncontested, but this time around they will, and Ant is going to find a catch onto Kim Jensen. Great flash over the wall is going to get him away. JL having to use the ultimate defensively. That Ragnarok has timed out, so the Olaf has just lost a massive amount of power. Ruzu going to try and spin through him, and the Democracy and Justice is going to finish off the top laner of Vitagen Pearl. Sanix now popping the ghost, walking forward, and now Vitagen, after losing their top laner, will just have to give up yet another objective, as even the Nexus turret is under siege from the minions of Gucci Yin. Just doesn't seem like Vitagen Pearl have an answer to anything that's being thrown their way.
Garen's too broken. What is this? he wasn't even low. He was 45% HP or something. Come on, man.
I don't even know. I don't even know. Is Garen an assassin? Is that just the thing now? Like, you know, when mid laners are like, yeah, I play assassins only, Akali, Aurelia, Garen. Like, is that the new Is that the new theme? Is that what we're going with these days? But yeah, no,
he's
Root.
saying flash forward. He can't quite get on the 6, so he just spins on someone else and kills that guy instead. Yeah, unlucky. Your teammate didn't want to die, so it's you.
I can't reach him. Let me one-shot the Olaf instead. Yeah, that's the reality.
That's what we're at right now.
That's the reality of this situation, and unfortunately for Vitagen Pearl, their base is in absolute tatters with Elder Dragon spawning very, very soon. Algon, you have to feel they have to contest something at some point this game.
I mean, I guess that was at least some kind of a contest, but it didn't start too bad. They do get the flash on Oriana because Ant was absolutely going to run him down if he didn't flash, and he kept the Ragnarok running. So if you were to rewatch that fight, you see JL burning his ultimate to just keep the distance and make sure that Ragnarok will burn out. And once it does, he cannot walk forward at carries anymore. And, you know, the Garen can, and that was kind of the end of that team fight, and Sanix kind of frontlining there to secure some vision. But the second Elder on the map at 35 minutes is kind of unheard of, but we are in this situation, and Dutch is around. He does have flash, but he doesn't see anything in a bit.
Oh my god, Ruzu! It's just gonna go and shred through and forcing the flash out of the Olaf, and already a bad start for Vitagen Pearl. I think Tralulu's a little bit more interested in the minion wave as opposed to poking out, which is kind of what he's been drafted the Ziggs to do. Farming is all great. That 10 CS per minute is very fancy, but I feel like the point of the Ziggs is to try to poke out your enemies at these objectives. So going for that minion wave there, definitely a big question mark from me. Is well, once again, an objective goes uncontested, and Gucci and get the dragon.
I have to highlight, we almost saw the assassination from Ruzu on Ant again within seconds of killing and Olaf. This is, come on, what is this? But they've got double Uber buffs here, and they're gonna burn this right away.
Yeah, Sanix already stepping forward. There is only one cannon minion here, but it is a baroned up cannon minion, so we'll be able to siege that turret from far away. And as the wave crashes, this is now Judgment Day for Vitagen Pearl. There goes JL switching off the turrets. You have no safety, Vitagen Pearl. You do get the knock up on Riggs, but there goes the Elder Dragon value. That's already 1 down, 2 down. There's 3 members of Vitagen Pearl remaining. Tralulu, you are the saving grace, but not anymore. You are fallen on the Ziggs. 2 and 1, a decent fight you put up, but the rest of the team could not follow your march. As Gucci yet, it was men against boys, and they fall in game 1.
Well, finally, so I think it was honestly. I think Pearl is probably miserable at that point. Like every time they even come close to an objective, they just get bullied out of the jungle. It's a really dominant performance here from Gucci. As we finally get a team fight where more than one member dies, because it was kind of like just single individuals getting picked out. So at least somewhat of an explosive finish, but when the enemy has to double Uber buffs, it's not really fair anymore. So
yeah,
go next.
Go next. And well, let's take our hats off to JL. What a performance. I think the only kill he missed out on was the assassination that no one saw onto LMR from Ruzu. But yeah, what a game coming out from the top side of Gucci and the top side of Vitagen Pearl. That's their strong point. You know, the mid-jungle top lane of Vitagen Pearl, these are their star players.
But
and in that game, definitely didn't look like that.
What if, Garen?
Yeah. Cool master players, Garen.
R5 Garen.
R5 Garen.
It didn't. I'm not gonna lie. It didn't do that much, even though it got first blood in the first 15 minutes. But like, he just started assassinating people later on in the objective fight. So
I don't know. You say it doesn't do that much, but I actually kind of disagree with you. you know, as an Olaf, if I'm Olaf there, you're walking up, you're like feeling so confident. You're like, let's just stand in front of my backline.
Yeah,
Poof,
you're scared of the Kog'Maw, right?
Yeah. I gotta watch out. The Kog'Maw might shred me. Yeah, jokes on you, buddy. Ruzu on the Karen, a unorthodox pick in terms of competitive, but definitely pulling out the stomps there. Algren, have you got an MVP you want to put your vote to?
I think, the Garen did so much work there, but I think it's JL who got literally every objective on the map, got the first blood with a really clean executed dive. I don't even know if he died, but he played every fight, I think, really well. He was on every objective first. I think he just completely controlled the map, and I think when we were talking about this game, it was about the jungle matchup, Dutch versus JL. Dutch wanting his revenge. We talked about it in the podcast, and I think Dutch really has to show up game two. He has done that last week, and I really hope that he can come a bit more competitive, because to me, it was complete jungle diff this game for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you, but do not count the players in Vitagen Pearl out. They are experienced for a reason. Dutch and Ant are champions for a reason. But for now, game 2 is coming very soon, but we will go to a quick break. Do not go anywhere. Hello, welcome back. Game 1 locked in. The result is there 1-0 to Good Chi Yin up against Vitagen Pearl. What we considered to be quite a hype matchup didn't really produce the most hyped game as it was very one-sided.
Yeah, we only had some kills for Trululu in the mid lane for the most part, and didn't really do as much with it. And I think maybe it's playstyle or maybe it's just a champion, but so far not a big fan of the Ziggs, as I've never really been a big fan of the Ziggs in the mid lane. So I definitely want to see, like, honestly, just get me an entirely new draft for Pearl. They're on red side.
Yeah.
Craft something completely new, because I'm also like, I can see why Senna could be a very strong champion, but it's like so conditional, and there's just better champions. And I think the Kog'Maw is a great answer. I think you want to pair Senna with either Tam Kench or Cho'Gath or some kind of beefy frontline, and that's exactly what Kog'Maw wants, because he can just shred him down. And yeah, I mean, we didn't even get to see it, but it was going to happen if it wasn't for Garen.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That's
I
a
mean,
Garen.
we were kind of talking on broadcast, meaning the fact that, like, you know what, let's just talk about Garen spinning through a bunch of people. And I mean, okay, Algren, I don't know about you, but I don't consider Garen to be a very useful champion in competitive play. But
No.
somehow, Ruzu definitely made it look like one of the most broken things to come out of existence.
Yeah, I think it's two things. It's Ruzu, pretty good top laner, and draft from Pearl, probably not very good against the Garen. So
Yeah.
the perfect storm for the Garen to come out and show us some of that Beyblade action. It's
Yeah.
definitely what nightmares are made of, man. Like, if you can see an Olaf getting shredded that fast, like, yeah. I think he got to feel what most ADCs feel like in solo queue, where the Garen flashes on top of you. And then I go, why are you dying, man? Why are you dying? Look what this champion does, man.
Yeah. Stride Breaker as well. So once he gets on top of you, there's really no escaping
With
that.
phase rush, so there's no running.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, definitely a one to forget for Vitagen Pearl as the Game 2 draft already kicking off. Kaita off the board. I can imagine Gucci Yin probably not scared of anything that Vitagen showed in that last game. So I assume they will proceed with the exact same bans.
They also banned Smolder last time. I think they might leave that open, because I think it's very much a red side mandatory ban, because for obvious reasons, right? This champion can't be punished. I have trouble remembering what other ban that they put on red side.
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe like a Maokai. I don't know. No, actually, no, they would never ban
Gwen, maybe? Was it Gwen?
Sorry, what?
Was it Gwen? I don't know.
Nah, definitely not Gwen either. But yeah, it was the Karma. There it is. So that's also banned away. They're gonna save Turlulu from doing another Karma performance. I don't know if that's what he's about. Everybody in chat was in that game saying, like, bro, don't play Karma again.
Stop for everyone.
Yeah, that was other people. That was other people. It wasn't me. I'm just quoting them.
Oh, they actually go for the Jarvan ban. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they have a ban freed up here, and I'm expecting a Smolder ban. I think you have to lock it in, because if you don't, then Pearl will get it on red side, and I think that's also obnoxious as hell, unless Yin has an answer to it, but everybody's banning it, so I don't think they do have an answer for it.
Yeah, Smolder is such a powerful pick in the meta right now. You drop the Mom ultimate right on top onto everyone, and just as you said, great call out there. Algred Smolder does get locked in, and Kichi B1 last game wasn't that good, because you said you're not too much of a fan of B1 Senna, but B1 Volibear, I think we can all agree, is a fantastic lock-in.
It's been a really, like, a notorious strong early game jungler, also early game strong top laner. And it's been buffed, and recently it's just been good in the jungle, so it's like there's no drawback to putting this in the jungle. It provides frontline, it provides CC, setup, tower dive, it's kind of everything you need in a jungler. And it doesn't even scale half bad. If he gets onto your AD carry without protection, he's dead. So just a B1 no-brainer. And yeah, let's see what kind of pivot we have for Pearl here, because last time it was, they prioritized an ADC pick on B1, and then Yin got Volibear on that side. And they had the Terminal as an answer, but it didn't seem to do anything. So I want to see something else for sure. And I'm curious what Dutch wants to play in this situation.
Yeah, I'm very curious indeed, because the Trundle was the pick into the Volibear, and it just didn't really materialize into anything. Vitagen and Pearl, they're already signifying a very different outlook because Lulu did get locked in, and one of the best pairings with Lulu is going to be Xin Zhao, and that's going to be Dutch's new answer this game too. As Senna, once again, we do see it on blue side, and it is going to be going into the bot lane of Gucci Yin. Actually, not locked in yet, but I'm assuming they're going to lock it in. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think Senna, a much better matchup for the Senna will be into something like the Lulu.
Yeah, I think Senna makes a lot of sense into Enchanters. I think that's where it's always shined the most, because it can just kind of freely poke and sustain response in poke.
Yeah.
But then again, we don't know what the answer is going to be. If they just pick up the Kog'Maw here on Pearl, if LMR has that also in his pocket, I think that's still a rough position. I think Senna couldn't do anything against Kog'Maw last game, and I don't think just because it's on Gucci, it's that amazing of a pick. But they're going to pair it up with Nautilus, which is maybe a weird pairing, because I think Nautilus definitely wants to kill early. But yeah, okay, it's going to be a Jinx's response, and I think that's kind of hard to maneuver into a Nautilus ultimate.
Yeah, Jinx is not a champion that's currently sitting too strongly in the meta right now, but it does get locked in for LMR. It does pair up pretty decently with the Lulu, but just as you said, up against Nautilus, not the easiest champion to maneuver in these team fights. That depth charge gets locked onto you. You kind of just have to run away as opposed to do any DPS. So tricky one for LMR, but the reason why I said woe to this Nautilus lock-in, I do believe this is the first time this split where Riggs is playing a Hooks champion, so I'm going to keep my eyes out for his performance. Just as we said, a chance for him to step up. He had a great game one, keeping Sanix alive in that laning phase, giving him the confidence to step up and DPS his bot lane counterparts, and this time now on the Nautilus, let's see some of that playmaking capabilities that this support player has.
Yeah, for sure. Riggs has been more an Enchanter player, I think, when you look at his OP.GG. So definitely curious to see if he can land some of those nice hooks here. Would be great, actually, for Volibear to actually strong side this bot lane, because Jinx was really strong last year, up until they changed ADC patch completely, and then she became very weak in the early game. And that's still the case, at least to my opinion. So this Jinx needs to get at least to like the Kraken Slayer item spike to really pop off. Unless you, of course, like you completely run it down. Jinx has a lot of DPS still, but it's in the early game quite hard to pop off on this champion. And we're gonna see a lot of mid lane bans here to see how we can round out this draft. An Akali ban away from Kim Jensen as well as Diana. They do recognize they need some more magic damage. But I think there's still a lot left open here for Kim Jensen, and they're also just going to deny any kind of late game scaling options, it looks like, from Gucci Yin, because they know that Trululu really likes those kind of champions. As I say that's another. I think they did that last game as well, the cast, and I think this is definitely a champion that Trululu would want to play.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree, but I think with Trululu's previous game, looking in that Ziggs and kind of what he has been playing in the SLE so far, well, he will hover the Veigar. I really like this pick. Yeah, another late game mage, and I really like this pick, especially when you take into consideration that the Kassadin is off the board. So, I mean, I'm assuming Kim Jensen doesn't play Katarina, so Veigar counters are not available. So locking that champion in is going to provide some much needed zone control with the baby cage, as Ruzu is going to hover that rumble. It's given me nightmares in my personal duo queue games with him, but he is a very good rumble player. We all know that he had a very good performance on it in a previous game, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it does...
I'm not gonna lie.
He lost, but I think he got pretty fit. Yeah, it does get locked in here alongside the Hui. This is a Kim Jensen special. This time around, we'll get the counter pick, and yeah, so far the Gucci Yin team composition does round out pretty well, but Vitagen and Pearl, they've gone for a completely different outlook. It's full scaling carries on their side.
I see some suggestions for Veigar builds in chat, and there's no way in hell that Trululu is building supportive items on a mage for himself.
Yeah.
But he's finding himself a different Yordle in the mid lane. I think it's a lot better of a Yordle, because that gauge is such a strong ability. And yeah, Volibear, in order to get through that, he will have to burn the ultimate. And I think he might even still be stunned upon arrival then, because I think the stun just starts timing as soon as he goes through it with the ultimate, even though he's unstoppable. And for the top lane matchup, we've got I've actually seen this also play out in the NLC game where the Rumble actually shreds melee top laners, but this is a different melee top laner than the last time. And K'Sante has always been a very strong champion as soon as he gets his first base in. So I'm definitely excited about the top lane again. No Garen this time in the top lane, but
No
a
Garen,
Figure and some T'Chakas. I don't know what the name they're called, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to kind of touch on is we have two K'Sante masters on both sides. Ruzu and Ant is so incredibly impeccable on this champion. They really pushed this K'Sante pick to the maximum. It will. I assume there was going to be more of a contest on that champion, but nonetheless, we do see it. It will go into the hands of Ant. So I'm very excited to see that matchup play out. But one thing let's talk about is the mid lane situation. Now, because last game, although Trelulu did get the better of Kim Jensen in the laning phase, I am going to be quite critical of that Ziggs performance, because you're so strong. You're averaging 10 CS per minute plus, yet every contest he also piloted towards minion waves instead of being there at the fight, poking out your opponents. The only way you can set up a contest is you're repeatedly poking and then throwing bombs on your enemies. But if you just autopilot to the waves, you're not doing what you've picked the Ziggs for. And in this similar situation, if Trelulu, all he's going to do in this game is pivot himself to minion waves, the Veigar pick is just not effective. And I think the big thing for me is Trelulu needs to get himself stuck into these objective fights, because going straight for waves did not work last game.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, minion kills do not win games. It's about Nexus kills. So yeah, might be good advice for your solo queue teammates as well. It's about the Nexus, but whatever. No, I think last time we also saw that he went for those waves, and when he gets contested, he had the safety of the Ziggs to kind of keep himself out of trouble. But that's the other part. Maybe he wants to kind of force the enemy to attack him, and if you step into that cage, almost anybody on the lineup from Gucci, except maybe the Foley Bear, will get absolutely one shot. Because that's the Veigar. It's the different kind of Garen. It's Q into R and you're gone. That's the magic.
Yeah, and
I think it's one of his voice lines.
We touched on how Volibear came through some buffs, and so did the Veigar. And I think it's kind of gone under the radar in terms of power, but I think Veigar, especially in the SLE at this level, where playing against certain champions is slightly more difficult if you aren't as competitively aware or have that experience. And you know, you can just free scale, and similar to the Jinx, as much as it is not a good pick, and someone in the chat mentioned, and I completely agree with you, he has kind of counterpicked himself on every single accord. It is still a scaling champion, and if it gets a power spike, it's going to do the damage. So I think that's the name of the game for Vitagen Pearl. You could even see the way they played their last game. It was slow. They kind of just waited until a certain point before they wanted to do anything. And I really think pivoting their draft to something like this, if they tend to play that style that they did in the first game, it does benefit them more.
Yeah, I think actually, before I go in more and break down the bot lane, I also wanted to ask you though, because I'm not too sure if this mid lane matchup is really good for them, but I know that Kim Jensen loves the way, and I know you love the way, but is this actually competitively a good champion? Because I'm not really, haven't seen what makes this mage so good in the mid lane.
So right now with mid lane, one thing that really sets champions apart from the others is a versatility. And when it comes to Hui, what more versatility can you get than having 9 different abilities, right? And so for Hui, you can play matchups differently based on what your opponent is trying to do. For example, here, Hui into Veigar, you do outrange him. Veigar isn't the longest range mage in the world, so you can poke him out with your QW, with your QQ. You can keep yourself safe with the W. You know, I'm not even going to try and explain, because everyone's going to be like, what is he talking about? He's just saying letters. But no, point is, you can play matchups differently depending on your opponent. And I think if you're a master of Hui, which obviously it does take a long time to get to, But unfortunately for Vitagen Part, unfortunately for Gucci Yin, Kim Jensen is so well versed around this complex pick. So I really do think he will be able to pilot this to maximum efficiency, and that versatility is really what brings Hui into a strong competitive pick. And take into account the build that he goes, he is well versed in running that Seraph's Embrace, which is a powerful item right now, keeping mages alive under threat. And especially look at the Xin Zhao Cassandra, he's going to be in the face of Kim Jensen here, so that item has maximum value. And furthermore, that late game W, that QW, that long range Xerath W, whatever Riot copied spells from and just put it into another champion except 9 other spells, it's pretty broken. And in this particular game where you are going to have to stay and keep your distance from your opponents, it's going to come very handy.
Yeah, I think the way in isolation against Veigar should be absolutely fine, but I'm just a little worried about the Xin Zhao showing up. And yeah, the only escape tool for the way I think in that situation is hitting the fear. And if you miss the fear, you're just dead because you are completely immobile. But yeah, I'm curious to see how Kim Jensen is going to pilot this champion, because as you highlight, this champion has a lot of creative avenues, and if you can get nice creative combos out there, you can bring a lot to a team here. And especially that ultimate, I think the team comp that I see on Pearl, anytime I see an enchanter, it's always automatically a composition that wants to stick together. And that's not what you want to do against the Wei ultimate. So that can also create a lot of space here for the Senna to slow down the fight and just pick the targets off one by one while healing her teammates. And I also want to highlight that I think this Nautilus pick is really smart, because they wanted to go with a hyper carrying bot lane. You can see, and I think neither Kog'Maw or Jinx would be a really good answer. And if you go into the Senna, the Sivir, you would be safe from the hook, but you would get outranged from the Senna. So that's rough. And then the only really playable answer, in my opinion, is like an Aphelios, but that's a really hard champion to pilot. So yeah, they picked there the Jinx, and I think it's going to be rough, because I think on the early levels, Senna will literally outrange Jinx, and she can just get free stacks if they ever try trading. So yeah, they should get pushed because they have a Lulu, but if you get pushed and you get hooked once by Nautilus, which is not hard to do, he can even just flash up over minions to just land an auto attack. Yeah. And the bear is there, somebody's gonna die. So I think this game, at least especially, I want to see both junglers go bot lane. I don't think we're gonna see Volibear doing an early gank in the top lane. I don't think you have the right setup there. But of course, he had a great early pathing last game. He can shake things up again and maybe find other creative avenues. But yeah, we're going to see how it's going to come down. I'm definitely curious for a lot of these matchups here, because I don't think we've seen these specific matchups in almost every lane is like something that I haven't seen in the SLE yet. I don't think we've seen Rumble. I don't think we've seen the Veigar, and I don't think we've seen a lot of Jinx versus Senna yet.
Yeah. We haven't, and we haven't seen Jinx at all. At least personally, I haven't seen Jinx in a minute. And Algan, I kind of mentioned that Jinx isn't the best in the meta right now, but that was more. Sorry.
It can scale. So
yeah, it can scale, but that was kind of based on the fact that I just haven't seen it. I don't actually know if it's weak or strong. What's your takes on this champion, and how do you see this this pick really making it work in this game?
So early laning bad, late game fighting good. My TLDR. So, yeah. In terms of gank safety, it's gonna come down to this Xin Zhao. If he doesn't hover, I think you can kill this bot lane duo on repeat, because this Senna can just freely trade every time on a hook. They don't really get to respond too much. The Nautilus is not even gonna lose too much health, because there's just so much healing coming down from the Senna to keep this trading pattern active. And yeah, it's gonna come down to the Jinx, how she places these traps to keep her safe from the Volibear as well as the Nautilus, because if they get on top of her, even if you have a Lulu, I think she's just gonna die, because something that we haven't touched upon is the massive combo they have on the side of Yin here with this Rumble and the depth charge from the Nautilus. It's gonna be, yeah, like this knockup comes down and the Flame Spitter's already under your feet, so you're just losing all of your HP.
Yeah, definitely. The combo here coming out from the top. What?
Can't run.
Yeah, yeah.
Will land.
The combo here is very lethal. And what do you think about Jinx not running any sort of defensive summoner spell, going for the ghost?
Well, if you're up against an Nautilus, what defensive summoner would you take? I think the best counter you have is actually just ghosting away.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
Because if you create some distance, you might actually be safe from the hook. It's like the only saving grace you have.
You're not under threat if you're not there, right? So if you're on away,
Oh yeah, sure.
if you're on away,
you just TP after everything's done, right?
yeah. It's kind of like in real life when I see a tornado heading my way, I just pop ghost and run out.
Yeah, exactly. Now you get it.
Oh, speaking of,
Riggs
is gonna find a hook onto Karlasky. JL now arriving. Not gonna find that stun, but a solo kill in the top lane. Ant has gotten shafted by Ruzu this series, and a solo kill already in game 2 out of Ruzu on the Rumble. And Ant's signature Cassante is gonna fall.
Yeah, I was talking about that top lane doesn't have setup to really gank it early for the bear, and we do see a little bit of one.
Yeah, potential contestant. JL is level 4 to Dutch is level 3, so he's going to feel confident to go for this, forcing the flash out of the veteran jungler. And already, Vitagen Pearl struggling again in game 2.
Yeah, so to finish my last point, there is no setup in the top lane, but we have seen how Rumble bullies a top laner, and the bully turned into a kill.
Yep.
Yeah. Saving grace, at least this game around, is he does have TP, so he's not going to go down the same amount as CS, and he will be able to just stay at least even in levels. But if the NLC game is any kind of indication, this is only going to get worse.
Yeah, Kim Jensen now going to use the EQ and the QQ, procking that passive. Dutch doesn't have flash. Why are you laughing?
Oh yeah, the QQ, yeah, that one.
Shut up, man. Hey, players in the chat, you know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, Kim Jensen gonna be safe there. As I don't know if people know, Hui is actually a very as I talk about the versatility, he's got so many tools to keep himself safe and keep himself alive. So, one thing Dutch might need to look out for is he's flashless now, and he's gonna come under a lot of pressure.
JL wants to take this because Ant is on the ward, he's not going too fast, so he's calling Ruzu here as well.
Calling Ruzu, but might be calling him into his death. And actually, a 2v2 breaking out in the bot lane. Sanix is going to use the Shroud. The Mist is going to... Oh my god, you're such an inter. Anyway. Just run, no? Just run. Why die? Anyway, well, 2v2 does go in the favor of Good Chien, and well, Adrian, I fear the worst as game 1 seems to be repeating itself as Good Chien are just dominating all across the board. You can take this, I don't think there's a replay of...
I don't think there was any kill here in top lane, but Ruzu went a little bit too soon. They immediately turn it on, so he has to run away. Nothing happens here. But as we talked about it, if hooks land from Riggs, and I'm assuming that's what happened here, the fight looks pretty good for the Senna as the early game power. You see it. If you think about Jinx versus Senna, you don't think that Senna should beat her, but in the early game, she just does. Yep. And that's just what happens here. And the only saving grace for that bot lane is that the wave was kind of pushing out, and the only one alive was the Nautilus. So the death from Sanix is kind of punishing, as Jinx will actually go up in CS here, as they've managed to freeze and deny more waves, and probably get themselves a bit of an XP lead here. So that turnaround for Sanix to try and get the kill anyways is kind of a big mistake. It was otherwise a really good fight for you.
Yeah, a really good fight, but yeah, it's really important you touched on, because I don't see Senna as a strong early game AD carry, but unfortunately for Vitagen Pearl, Jinx is worse. So yeah, they will lose out on the TV2. And I mean, it's a very rare occasion that Senna is stronger than an AD carry at this point in the game.
Yeah, it's just when it comes to early game ADCs, the Jinx is not one of them. So she definitely wants to get she needs some attack speed, she needs some movement speed so she can start kiting around, get some levels in that Q so that that bonus attack speed actually starts mattering. As you see Sanix kind of face tanking everything there. As LMR also a bit early on the chompers, they're quite a long cooldown, and the JL Foley Bear is coming around as Riggs wants some piece of this Jinx.
Yeah, Riggs. Oh my god, yo, check his PC as the hook seems to have curved around the minion wave. Gonna find LMR. JL is gonna find a stun, but Dutch is around. He has to be careful here. Does have the level 6, so Dutch is gonna go in. Hook not gonna quite land, but here comes the bot lane of Good Chien. It will just be the back off defensive ultimate, so they will fend off this gank for now. And Dutch is able to finally match JL on some aggression here, pushing him away. Yeah, on the Jinx, I wanted to make a joke. Just like Arcane, you have to wait till episode 8 before Jinx actually does anything.
Wait, she did something already in episode 3. What are you talking about?
Oh, dude, I don't remember Arcane. Shut up. Anyway, well, Kolaski getting hooked up by Riggs, and the bot lane and jungler of Vitagen Pearl coming under siege. And once again, it's the same story. JL already secured 3 grubs, and he's now finding himself another free neutral objective. And Algren, where is this coming from? Their free access to these neutrals.
I'm a bit surprised here because as it was kind of a gank from JL, but I think that they were both going in separately, actually opting into 1v2s because the Jinx was kind of safe. As cool as the hook looked, she was safe, and JL wasn't there to follow up, and then JL tries to take some fighting. Oh, that's actually top lane fighting.
Oh yeah, and this might be your chance to bite back in the matchup. It will be a 1-for-1, but considering the fact that you felt earlier doors, it's gonna be a trade that you are happy with. So Ant bites back finally in this series up against Ruzu. It's a 1-for-1, so Algren, who do you think got the better of that? Because look at that top lane.
Waves on the side of top of
Yeah.
Pearl, so they got the advantage, I guess. But really nice equalizer there from Ruzu, actually putting it down where he was. The Xante was going to use the all out, and where he ended up was where the burning started. So getting the maximum timer of the ultimate there, actually making sure that he will go down there.
Yeah.
And yeah, at least trading 1-for-1. But yeah, they're bringing the beefy boys to the top lane here, as I think there are some grubbies spawning that they might want to contest. Or potentially just looking for a wild Dutch in his jungle.
Oh gosh.
He doesn't
Yeah.
even see... Oh no.
Dutch has no idea this is happening, but the good Chi-In squad have all the idea that this is happening. Dutch is going to be able to flash out in time and blast cone himself to safety, but he will lose his red buff in return. And how could I have to say, it does seem like the crux of Vitagen Pearl is they kind of just sit around, wait for something to happen, and if they come up against a team that play as aggressive as this, they give up everything on the map.
Yeah, they kind of have to right now. It's already a miracle that Dutch is actually alive there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he's just doing it on full vision, just hasn't checked the bush. And I think it's a really good play here from Gucci. They get a piece of information, they turn it into an action point, they just turn it into 3 free uncontested grubs. And Sanex holding off 2 people.
Wait, what?
He's winning trades 1v2.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I think one thing to consider that is very, very different to the first game is Vitagen Pearl have fantastic scaling on their side, so it's not, it doesn't hurt as bad to give things up. Oh, but Riggs, what is wrong with you, man? That PC's not okay as he curves another dredge line around the minion wave. There goes the depth charge onto Alamore. A double kill landing into the hands of Sanex in game 2. And it's just pure domination coming out of the bot lane of good Chi-In.
Yeah, Senna is now an early game champion, absolutely dominating this lane here. And he is a bit down in CS because the wave was in a bit of an awkward spot, so at least that's one advantage on LMR. As we see Dutch trying to get his growth, but he's going to lose that one as well. And Chorlulu is coming around. They've been farming in mid lane pretty much all game so far. And yeah, there's nothing there for him to grab. So we're going to go into the replay and we see Riggs actually sneaking into the bush here. They probably didn't even know that he was back bot lane and finds a beautiful hook here right next to the minion, getting himself that low health Lulu, which was already traded down, I presume, from this Senna. And easy first skill into the chase down from the second, where the snare's going to land from the Senna. There's just no escaping here. There was flash actually for LMR, but could not use it in time. And yeah, a 3-in-1 Senna, 1 item finished, and a Dirk and boots compared to just a Kraken Slayer for Jinx. Jinx will start getting at least a little bit of power online, but maybe it's already too late for the 2v2s, and you're just going to have to sack it all to try and get this some later objectives.
Yeah, this is such a scary situation for Vitagen Pearl, and what a hook, what a play coming out from Riggs, really channeling the aspect of Wiggy's, not in the SLE finals though, because I don't know what the Wiggies did in that game. But sorry, I'm kidding, Wiggies. Wiggies, I'm joking. Thank you.
He's in the chat, man. Come on.
I'm sorry,
Don't
man.
bully our viewers.
No. Yeah, no, Riggs really showing up, and as we said, first time playing a hook champion this split, and so far they're really popping off like crazy.
Yeah, maybe just comment from the Regi's coaching, the hook champion from the SLE, and we see more just pure dominance here on the bot side. Look, they get so much vision down just to protect this bot lane. They're just gonna lead tower damage so far, and JL actually around. They should know that he's here. I think he did pass over a ward unless he moved directly from the red side camp. But yeah, they're fishing for him. But yeah, you can't be walking there, so that's your flash.
Okay, well, that dredge line there is confirmation that Riggs isn't using third-party licensing.
Well, I mean, it was a flash, so we don't know yet.
Oh yeah, true. Well,
So, but no,
yeah.
look at the pressure coming down here from this lead of the Senna. They just take 2 plates in their face while they're losing just waves as they're just staring it down. And Dutch is trying to get something here on top side, but it might be rough into a Rumble who has... Oh, he actually doesn't have equalizer. There might be a good chance here for him.
Yeah, this could be Vitagen's Pearl's chance to get something back in this game. The minion wave, only 3 strong, 3 casters is the only available, but a beautiful play from Ant is going to bring Ruzu over the wall. Great flash back to the turret. There goes the Dawning Shadows, going to buy some time for Ruzu. No, Dutch is going to fall in the 1 versus 2. And that was the cross-map play, so a 1-for-1 is going to be what Ruzu has to settle with, but... getting some kills on the board is going to be exactly what Vitagen Pearl need to do, considering they are behind on the curve.
Yeah, it's still, I think, a good pick-off. They are behind, so 1-for-1, definitely an advantage. They're also going to be able to shove some waves into the top lane tower, while Ant can get himself a bit of a comfortable position right now, probably getting a plate. But this was a very... Oh, never mind, we're going to...
Oh!
It's already over.
Hey, yo, using the ultimate for 1 HP Jinx. That's toxic. I don't think JL was a big fan of Jinx in the hit Netflix series, but yeah, you weren't the biggest. Both of us weren't the biggest fan of the Jinx pick. I think someone in chat as well was molding at the Jinx pick. Understandably so, because it's currently 0-3.
Yeah, I love the way Gucci is playing this. They're actually just... whenever they get an angle to get on top of this Jinx, they're taking it and they're bullying it, and they're showing that this champion should not just be freely scaling. It's not that kind of champion anymore right now. You need to put the resources down there and protect it to get it online, and it's behind now, and it's gonna keep falling behind if you don't protect it at all. And meanwhile, Ruzu just accidentally takes our aggro as he shoots a harpoon because he kind of assumed there was somebody coming out. But yeah, so far, this Jinx is struggling, and yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to start looking at the mid lane here if some of these cages can come down to get some picks here, because I do think that Veigar should be able to one-shot a Senna, but he's just kind of farming, and
He missed cannon. Sanix
more
missed
of the
cannon.
same, I guess.
Sanix missed cannon. Sorry, I'm playing by playing here. That's play by play. He missed
cannon?
cannon.
Oh, no.
He missed cannon.
FF.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, -1 in the chat. Thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, well, another neutral objective does go into the hands of Gucci Yin, but yeah, Vitagen Pearl, they do have Trelulu on the Veigar. Might have to be their saving grace, as Ant is going to jump forward, Dutch revealing himself, but with JL being there, I don't think Dutch feels confident to push this any further. I like what Vitagen Pearl have done here, moving that Veigar to scale up even more, already on 170 stacks. But someone who isn't safe is Kalaski on the Lulu. Depth charge doesn't quite finish off the target, but having to use the wild growth to keep himself alive. And Sanix is so strong. The bot lane of Vitagen Pearl, this looks so uncomfortable for them to play. Dutch going to try arrive and defend this mid lane tower, but I don't think they will be able to.
Yeah, JL come down here with a million grubbies that spawn from a Herald. Don't need to have 6 grubs, but they do have it anyways. So there's got a million grubs come down here. The charge will also come through. Can't stop that. Looking at straight with the Senna there, but yeah, there's backup there, and we've seen how this goes before. So step away here. That mid lane tower is belonging to Gucci. They have only the top tower left to break here. And yeah, like you talked about, let the Veigar scale even more, but they've just kind of sacrificed this mid lane tower as a result, because Jinx cannot defend it. If she even walks up to Rocket, the caster minions, she's close enough for a direction, not even the direction line, Nautilus can just press R. It didn't even come down to it, but that was what could have happened anyway, so they just have to sacrifice. This Jinx is too far behind. No Veigar cage to fight back, and they're just bleeding more.
Yeah, they are bleeding even more. But we kind of harped on this scaling aspect that the Vitagen Pearl team composition does have, and Kim Jensen might be in danger here. I don't know if he was looking at his screen because Dutch is going to arrive the cage, did not catch the Quay out, and the fear is going to come through. Dutch held on to that E very, very well, forcing the flash out of the Quay, so will be a tiny victory here. But yeah, my main question I wanted to ask you is what item spike does that Jinx start becoming scary?
So when you pivot into the creative build that I've seen like a challenger Jinx player do, is you skip the Kraken Slayer to go immediately into the splashing rockets from Runans and IH, but then your early game is really fucked. Because your one item spike literally doesn't exist until you have two. And he's opted into the one item spike, which is pretty good. But if you don't get to the other two items, or you don't even get an LDR in there, you kind of kill tanks, and you're already behind. So your one item spike isn't even there. So at this point, the earliest time this guy comes online, I think, is on 3 items. Unless, obviously, if you can get a pick off with the Veigar and just land an ult, you can get kills for sure, but you need 3 items to really start carrying team fights. But by that time, JL might be too tanky. The Nautilus has got a couple assists. He can get too tanky.
Oh, Trelulu gonna get hit up by the depth charge. The baby cage gonna buy some time, and that's the value of the Veigar. JL having to use the ultimate defensively and being frontline and causing some havoc in the middle of the Kuchian team composition. Another baby cage gonna re-up too. Ruzu is gonna be able to flash to safety. No casualties just yet. Ant is gonna find a knockback onto Ruzu. The 5v5 is breaking through. Kim Jensen and JL are gonna collaborate together to find 2 targets, and now Sanix is able to free it. This fight looks so good for Vitagen Pearl, but at the end of it, it is going to be good Chi-Yin benefiting. The cage isn't going to catch anyone. Kim Jensen doesn't quite land the aim, but a snipe from the QW is going to find its mark, and Kim Jensen on the way has come alive, and what seemed so good for Vitagen Pearl turns into disaster.
It started so well for Pearl because it's actually good cheese starting the fight with not all their carries there, and as you can see, Sanix is just forced to flash away because he got split off as a team. He couldn't play the backline carry, he couldn't heal his teammates, but LMR oversteps. Volibear's flash, and he's gonna use it, and you're gonna die. So that's what happens, and then the Volibear will just heal up from Triumph, heal up from Senna, and then just nobody else dies anymore. It's only Ruzu, I believe, who fell in that fight, and that is just another Drake here picked up. 1 for 4 kills, I believe, for the side of Gucci. It started so well, but you need to get these kills faster, and right now the Jinx is behind the curve. She's not popping up as hard as she wants to, and Gucci is dominating the Rift and dominating the team fights, and that was when they were split off initially.
Yeah, and played that fight so well, landed multi-man knockbacks, but the defining factors here is the carry versus carry matchups. The Jinx Veigar just hasn't hit their power spike, whereas the Hui and Senna, you can see the difference Sanix and Kim Jensen is making in terms of the DPS they're able to put out, really turn the tide of that fight, and, well, as I said, Karlaski's just dead. 1 and 4 on the Lulu. And yeah, the carries from Good Chi-Yin at this point in the game is really making the difference. And I'm going to have to feel if this fight happened maybe 10, 20 minutes down the line, it might have been different.
Yeah, maybe, but it's looking really rough. It does look like I did show, by the way, there's one sort of weakness within the composition from Gucci that you could see in that last fight, and is they don't have the highest damage to the front line of Ant, especially that he's pretty damn tanky, and he's got Lulu shields and buffs behind him as well. But the Senna's also picked up LDR, so she's gonna start hurting a lot harder. Even though she hits slow, she will hit hard, and she will be able to get them down. They also have the Rumble. If they can keep the Rumble and everybody together clumped up, I think this death ball from Gucci is going to be absolutely terrifying. And they absolutely know that Dutch is here. And now he's gone.
Oh, Dutch actually completing that recall and doesn't have Ghost or Flash, and we'll just be able to walk away. That's a tanky Cassante, so won't pursue anything else. But with members hanging around the Baron, I think Vitagen Pearl, they've taken note that Good Chi-Yin aren't hitting the pause button. They are going so aggressive on these objectives, and they need to be able to match this push on the top side. And Sonic, a little bit of frontline positioning, is going to trust his movement to dodge away from the Q3 of Ant. Another dredge line going to land onto Karlaski. Frontline Lulu. Spoiler alert, that's not how you play the champion, as he's going to get taken down early doors in the team fight. And, well, this Lulu is, I mean, the bot lane in general of Vitagen Pearl really struggling in this game.
Yeah, it almost starts off with Sanix just getting picked off, but no confidence in his move.
Oh, good
Oh,
baby
no,
cage, but he is going to eat a dredge line in return. Sanix's ultimate does so much damage and going to drag JL over the line, over the wall, but this volley bear is so powerful. Q3 going to land. He's going to keep himself alive. JL is too goddamn powerful. Another fantastic early game from the Italian stallion of Gucci is going to make him survive. Tralulu now, that volley bear ultimate doesn't give a damn about your baby cage. A triple kill coming in from Sanix, and once again in game 2, pure domination. LMR now under threat. Koloski has arrived back, but I don't think he'll get there in time. The Jinx is going to get taken down. Killing spree for JL, and it is an absolute wipage of the team of Vitagen.
I thought the fight was kind of over, but they're going to commit to it. It's a hook that lands here as a response to Ruzu getting caged and getting obliterated by the burst of this Veigar. They still have that, but yeah, a great ultimate from Ant here actually to split off their front line, and they almost wear him down, but Senna arrives just in time to heal him up. And in the picture-in-picture, you can see, by the way, they're also getting a Baron for their trouble. They get so close to these kills, and if they were not as far behind as they are, they could get them, and they maybe can get a grasp on this game, but it's just always too little, too late, and it's just slipping even further now with the Baron secured. 45 seconds on the Ocean Drake, the 4th Drake potentially for Gucci, an Ocean Soul potentially on the line here, and with Baron buff being able to used for 30 seconds to get yourself priority around this side, I think they're just gonna get this one very easily as well. And if they contest, I think they're just gonna lose the next fight as well, because looking at the Jinx, she doesn't even have a second item, whereas there's 3.5 on the side of the Senna.
Yeah. Yeah, and you talked about her Senna in terms of attack speed. Isn't the best AD carry, but in terms of damage right now is doing so much work, and now under siege from 3. Kim Jensen gonna miss out on the fear, but the all out is already blown early doors. So is the flash from Dutch, and Tralulu is just gonna keep chilling in the top lane, which, I mean, to be fair, you are playing Veigar, so yep. You're playing Veigar, no TP, so pushing that turret is going to be a solid response for now, because actually if Tralulu can secure this, well, Kim Jensen does teleport to defend that. If Tralulu can secure this, it's a lot of gold into the hands of the Veigar, and Kim Jensen does need to be careful here because he is almost in execute range. Tralulu feeling confident, and well, with the Ocean Soul, Kim Jensen will be able to heal up, but Tralulu, he will get this tier 2. That's a lot of gold into the hands of the Veigar, and once he completes a recall, I can imagine Death Cap will be ready for him to purchase.
Yeah, like the respect there coming out from Kim Jensen on the second half of that. Meanwhile, the siege is continuing very strongly. Baron buffs, double grubbers coming out here. Asena with massive long-range attacks as well. They're gonna have to try and find something, but...
Oh, yeah, while Dutch is gonna get hit up by Riggs as the dredge line finds its target. Flash was blown earlier, and so Sanix gonna find himself another kill on the board as he goes legendary. Ant gonna try and do what he can up against JL, but this volley bear is so stupidly tanky. Keep your eyes on the minimap because Tralulu has found a beautiful flank. Riggs is gonna walk into the baby cage, and here comes the Veigar. He finally finds himself a kill in this fight, and Tralulu teleports behind enemy lines to find a flank. Death Cap completed. Void Staff on the way. Well, there could be a Crypt Bloom, but yeah, and Tralulu, once again, eyes on him because he's going to be the saving grace for Vitagen Pearl.
Yeah, he finally comes in to join with the team fight. You see the control that comes down from the cage and the burst from this champion. He might actually brings... It's absolutely needed to burst, by the way, because of this Ocean Soul. The little bit of damage that is getting hit with every rocket doesn't matter. Oh, flash forward.
Ooh.
With a flashing kind. As this is kind of scary. If the next time it comes up, he might lose a lot of his HP. But,
oh my god!
Attack.
Okay.
But I actually want to say, I think Tralulu could have carried this even harder, because I think Kim Jensen being stunned after that TP, he should have died. If he just walked up and pressed R, he was dead.
Yeah, I think, yeah, a little bit of a lack of aggression coming out from Tralulu, but understandably so, because, I mean, there's so much pressure coming out from you, for you. As a Ruzu, he might have stepped in no man's land, and just as we said, Tralulu, he will just one-shot anyone that steps into that line of the baby cage. And, well, Ruzu, a great early game, but he has found himself dying on repeat. And it looks kind of like when he picks Rumble in my duo queue games with him.
Like I can make excuses for some of the earlier deaths that were in team fights, and he tries to do as much damage as he can, and he contributes a lot, and he's just a sacrificial lamb for the team to win. But this one was just bad.
Yeah, that was a rough
He's
one.
not the frontliner. He's just walking up as if there's nobody there. That's a bit of disrespect coming down there.
Yeah, I could kind of see what he was going for. He was trying to find the pincer onto Dutch without flash, so I think he just didn't consider that there was a potential Yordle who was spewing dark magic in his face in the bush. Fortunately, he does fall, but yeah, I think I guess dynamic of this game is very, very different now because Gucci Yin, they have to keep in mind this Veigar presses a few buttons on you, you are gone. Now
it's just Q and R on some.
Yeah, it's just Q and R. Vitagen Pearl, they are going to hold. Yeah, they're going to hold on to that, and what that's going to do as well is going to buy time for LMR.
Yeah, for sure. He's this is the awkward part, right? Because he went Kraken and he wants to have his potential tank killing items ready, because you see there's a lot of armor on the Volibear as well as the Nautilus. He's gonna opt into an early LDR, which means he will not have Infinity Edge on his rockets. So he will not be able to trade at all with the Senna. If he trades an auto attack, he just loses so hard. But Cage coming down again.
Oh yeah, Baby Cage coming down, and some great movement coming out from members of Gucci Yin, and not so great movement from Tralulu as he's going to be taken down. The overconfidence from the Vitagen Pearl mid laner is going to be his doom as he is taken out. And that means Gucci Yin, they're going to feel a lot more confident to push through with the Veigar dead. 45 seconds is the death timer. They will try to clear out this top lane tower, and they're going to feel confident to do so. LMR is the only damage dealer available for Vitagen Pearl, and he's just so weak. He only has 2 items, and the second one is a rapid fire cannon. They will be able to clear out this wave, but that tower is very, very low, and with Ruzu pushing down the mid wave, that is possibly going to be a turret falling down, and that was a massive pick coming out from Gucci Yin.
Yeah, I like the attempt, but he's not quite landing the burst, so he can't get the kill, and he will find himself dead. And without him right now, I don't think Vitagen can do anything at all. This tower will be gone, and he will respawn shortly after Baron spawns. It's up right now. I'm assuming Gucci's are going to make a beeline for that objective. And please, Jinx, stay alive against the Rumble in the meantime. But yeah, as we've seen this happen, it's also a big power spike hitting for the Senna, hitting 100 stacks. For some people that may not remember, this champion also keeps getting attack range, and it's gonna be just scaling infinitely, but Dutch is gonna find a fight here.
Yeah, Dutch gonna find a catch onto Riggs, but Riggs is the one playing aggressive here. JL, he's man-marking Tralulu, making sure his carries can stay alive in the fight. Dawning Shadow's gonna keep Riggs alive for now. JL still has the ultimate available, but will not have the time to get it down. The jungler from Gucci Yin is taken out from this team fight. Kim Jensen now under threat. The Baby Cage is gonna catch Riggs, sleeping away at the wheel. And finally, Vitagen Pearl, they find themselves 2 kills, and they get something back from this game.
And as the tables have turned, Veigar will show no mercy. He's coming up with his team, and he's gonna get the picks that are so needed, because this is an Ocean Soul Gucci squad that are not gonna pick up this Baron here, and they're gonna be able to start sieging a little bit back and get something back here, get some semblance of control. And it is a Elder Dragon spawning in 3 seconds with JL still dead, and junglers do not have access to Smite. So they're gonna have to try and make a trade play here.
It's so massive for Vitagen Pearl because they're going to get their hands on the Elder Dragon. You can see Gucci Yin trying to make that trade, going for the Baron buff. JL isn't even there, so they do not have the smite. It's not going to get stolen away. So Gucci Yin, they trade objectives, which is good for them. But Tralulu on the Veigar with Elder Dragon, one ability, and I think you're dead. So yo, Vitagen Pearl, they seem to have scaled up, and it's time to hit the go button for them.
Yeah, Veigar absolutely online. These gauges have to be massively respected, because anybody, he also has the Void Staff, right? Literally anybody who gets hit with the stun will take a full combo, and it's just like we talked about with the Garen earlier. Anybody will get assassinated and bursted, even the Volibear, if he doesn't jump away through the stun out of range. So very scary Veigar there. Tralulu has the means and the tools in his bag to start carrying this game, but at the same time, they picked themselves up an Elder Drake, and while you love an Elder Drake, the Baron buff should make it so that Gucci doesn't have to contest any fights. They should have the stronger minions, and if Pearl can't siege,
Gucci should be able to just stay safe on her tower and wait out this Elder buff. Because fighting right now, I think, would be a mistake, even though you've been in control for so long.
Yeah, it would cause massive repercussions if you are to fall here, because at this point in the game, if you die, the death timer, you're talking about a minute until you're back on the map. So I think right now is where a mistake can be so costly. And well, Algren, so far the build coming out from LMR is getting some question marks in the chat, and no Infinity Edge is the choice here for him.
Yeah, as I already highlighted earlier, actually, okay. Yeah, they're gonna have to give up this tower. I don't think it served its purpose at this point anyways. It's fine to give this one up. But yeah, the build from LMR, you pick up the rapid fire cannon if you believe that you're getting outranged and you want to get at least some semblance of damage through. But I think he absolutely wants to have splash rockets. So I would never have picked the rapid fire cannon here, and also delaying your Infinity Edge is, I think, also not the right call. I think you just want to get more AD in your build, so your ultimate at least can finish off the other target that Veigar is not going to be able to ult. I think that would be a better angle, but yeah, right now he's very much delayed. But as we are talking about, even though his build is delayed, he was so far behind the early game, he's still getting the 3 items, potentially 4 soon as well. We do know that a Jinx at 4 items, no matter what the build is, please put in there, it should start dealing massive amounts of damage, and they've stalled long enough. Is this what they needed?
Oh, Sanik's got caught by the baby cage. He's gonna have to get popped with the Manamune and sorry, with the more of Momosius, and Ant is gonna have a flank onto the members of Gucci and a great peeling tool protecting Sanix away from the threat of Ant as the fight is gonna break out. Riggs is gonna get taken down, and the team composition of Vitagen Power has started to come alive. Ant is gonna catch up to Kim Jensen. There goes the ultimate shot down into the hands of Tralulu. Jo gonna eliminate the Veigar from the fight, and it does look like out of nowhere, Gucci somehow find the pick. They manage to get their hands on the way, but they don't get their hands on the game as Gucci they remove the threats from the game, and this could be their push into the game.
I don't know if they can just end here, but they have 3 healthy members. It's only Xin Zhao that has to fight back here. He has a Lulu, but she doesn't have the ultimate. How will you hold on to your towers?
Yeah, Dutch having to go aggressive in the turrets. They cannot stand up, and Dutch is going to get burnt to smithereens. He will be able to survive as Kalaski is going to keep him alive, but JL is going to find the elimination on his former teammate. And although seasons change, the names will differ. Legacy remains. Gucci will take down Vitagen once again, and that's going to be the 2-0 for Gucci.
What an insanely explosive finish to the game that was otherwise completely dominated by Gucci. I think Tralulu did his best here fighting back and joining up with his team. He was able to create so much more space. These cages coming down, the assassinations coming down. And it looked for a second like they were just going to win the team fight out of nowhere. But then it's just, they just can't quite get that last kill. The Veigar oversteps. He finds himself dead. And then just the entire team fight falls apart, and it's just all that remains is Dutch trying to kill a minion wave to save his Nexus towers. But with Ocean Soul and one little creep was alive there, they will get the game for Gucci. A 2-0 for Gucci against what a lot of people believed was one of the contenders for the title. I do think I'm gonna change a little bit of my expectations, because I thought this would be a lot more close throughout the entire game, and it was only really at the end of the second game where we really started to see what I was sort of promised with this team. So I'm not sure they're still contenders for the title, but they should have been, and I think it's great for Gucci here to pick a 2-0 up against Vitagen.
Yeah, a great result, and it's sad to see the state of the current Vitagen Pearl roster, because Dutch is such an experienced player, and I really do think he still sits among the best of the jungle pool in the league. But I have to say, I'm so critical of the way they're playing here, because it's so passive. Tralulu seems like a scaling mage. He doesn't really, participate too much until his power spike. Dutch kind of just outpaced by JL this game, and Kalaski on the Lulu. I mean, you're a Lulu, so not much to do there, right? And what develops from that is just they just sat around and did nothing. They just waited. Like, of course you're a Veigar, you're going to scale, but then, I mean, it doesn't matter because apparently JL could beat you anyway. So I think for Vitagen and Pearl, they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board because this passive playstyle, it's almost outdated. It's something you did in season 5, season 6, but right now in the way the game is played, you're not gonna get away with that.
No, you're not going to get away with that. And I should say, you're not going to get away with that against teams that know how to execute the game, right? You can see that every time Gucci got a piece of information, they saw Dutch clearing a red buff. They just sent multiple people down there because they were going for the grubs, but like, well, we'll take your Xinjiao or your red buff instead, you know? And
Yeah.
they get these little pieces of information. They're gonna act upon it. They're gonna use it. They pick themselves the Nautilus alongside the Senna because they know that against a Lulu, that's just actually a strong lane. And there's no option for you left when you have to go up against the Volibear. It's also just such a strong early game jungler that skills relatively good as well. So yeah, you have to break the other side of the map if you're losing on one end, and they just don't really get anything down. And as you said, it's too little, too late. The Veigar did come online, and it seemed very strong. But I think Veigar Cage is one of the, such a strong ability. And I was thinking about it a couple days earlier. Why is Veigar a strong early game bot laner, for example? Because this cage is such a good tool for setup.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't need to scale in this champion when you have such good setup, and your base damage is not even that bad. You can make so much more stuff happen, and I think mid jungle definitely has some watching to do at these games to see how they can leverage an otherwise really good performing mid laner in Trolulu. But I think you need to bring that lead, and I think it's definitely for solo queue. I would also just think if you win somewhere, bring that lead elsewhere so you can get your teammates somewhat useful. Because right now, this bot lane, I don't think they were useful at any point.
No, it was a tough situation for the bot lane, but I was gonna throw you the MVP question, but I think in this particular game, although JL really did keep up the tempo, I'm gonna have to shout out Riggs. These hooks in the bot lane set up Sanix for success, and it almost looked suspicious at one point where I was like, no, these are genuinely going through minions.
Yeah, no, I think Greeks had a really great performance. We were talking about it earlier, where we see that the supports can really make a name for themselves here and prove themselves. And I think Riggs showed up. Like, you would not guess after seeing this game that he is one of the lowest LP peaks on this team. Like,
no,
at all. He looked really good here. He landed great hooks. His first game was also just really stable, anyways, just supporting Sanix wherever he needed. And I think it looks really good because a player like Sanix wants to play aggressive, and these hooks landing got him fed and got him in that comfort zone where he can just, you see in top lane, right? Like, he just mind game with his opponent and just, come step up to me, and then just turn it around and create those opportunities. So I think Riggs had a really good game here. He did kind of have some awkward deaths maybe at the end, but that's just Veigar things. So I can completely forgive that part. Now this is one mode. You go in, you get your pick. And you usually die. And in the late game, he did have to die against the Fed Trolulu, Fed from farming. But his early game was really good, and I think that's warranted an MVP here for me.
Yeah, I agree. And well, I don't know if we do like post game interview situation thing here, but is that a thing, Mr. Producer? Because I think it will be lovely to have a chat with one of the winners, but yeah, maybe, no, maybe. I mean, I'll give it a few minutes and I'll start some random topic. But yeah, for Gitchy Yin, they seem to be following a similar script to last split. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but have a rocky start and then build up as the split continues. Where do they go from here? Because although this was a dominant performance, let's not let's hit the realism button here. And for Gucci Yin, you need to understand this Vitagen Pearl is not on form right now. They are not performing well. They last week they won one against an opponent that they really realistically should have 2-0'd. And it's important now for Gucci Yin to move forward, but without blowing up your confidence too much. Because whilst Vitagen Pearl has the names, their performances really hasn't been up to scratch.
No, I think Vitagen is a bit struggling here. I think what really carried the game in the game 2 against Snackback is kind of Trolulu also just coming online, but betting on the fact that Snackback won't get too ahead in the early game so that you can just wait around and just abuse a kind of non-interactive playstyle from the Poke Kaisa coming down there to win that game. But that game 1, when you looked at that one, it was just not just because we talked about that the karma didn't work as well, but the bot lane didn't work either, and it just that entire game 1 just didn't look like And otherwise, I think 2 splits ago, they have 2 members, I think, that won the split. They are regarded as the better players in the SLE, and that game one is definitely not represented. And I think the same is happening today. So
Yeah.
they have some soul searching to do moving forward in the split.
Yeah, they definitely have to do. And I mean, I know Vitagen leading that, Dutch leading that Vitagen squad. It isn't scared to make roster changes. So, I mean, I feel like if Vitagen continue the way they are, I wouldn't be surprised if they shift things up. It doesn't seem like we'll be getting an interview, so I think this will be the closeout of the stream. And Algren, thank you so much for joining me. And albeit a one-sided series, this is always a fun game to cast between these two organizations, and it's always a pleasure casting alongside you. And if you have any closing statements, this is your time.
Oh, had a great time with you as well. Thank you for the viewers and still thanks for both teams here for putting up a showdown. It might not have been the most hype of matches, but the game two has definitely got me to the edge of my seat. As I said, it's actually a lie. I was standing up anyways, but it was fun regardless. And yeah, good night from me. Just so I think we can close it off here. Thank you everybody for tuning in today.